Hello and welcome to day 30 of the Fall for Watercolor Challenge. Oh my gosh, penultimate day, baby. So we have been painting a little painting every day in the month of October. And today we're going to paint some vampire teeth. So we are going to be combining some of the skills from our previous watercolor tutorials. So hi, if you're new, I'm Kate. I am hopefully your watercolor BFF. And it's my goal to make watercolor feel accessible, doable, and fun. And we have a whole month's worth of video prompts. And I'm so excited to share this one with you. We are going to be painting some like juicy red lips. We're going to be leaving some white space to really emphasize some highlights. And we'll be doing some blending to kind of give it like that plump feeling. We'll talk a little bit about painting teeth and how they're not totally white. But also these are vampire teeth. So, we'll make the mouth really dark. And then we're going to like really play with gravity at the end. So it's going to be really fun. Stay tuned. All right, so let's get into it. I am going to start with the lips, I think. So I'm grabbing my size 4 round brush, clinkety clack, grabbing all my brushes. Okay, I'm just going to wet my brush a little bit, and I'm going to use this beautiful permanent rose watercolor. So I know I've talked about it a little bit, but I'm using all these Da Vinci watercolor paints, and they are just so beautiful and so vibrant. And they're super affordable. So if you're interested in that, you can definitely check out my supply list in the link below. Okay, so I didn't really go into how I'm drawing this today, but basically, let's clean that off so I don't point to it with my paintbrush. I'm making like a set of lips, so we've kind of got like a stretched out McDonald's M. Woo! And then kind of follow that. It's tapered here at the sides, but then gets fatter here toward the middle and down. And then we have like an open mouth here. I have made little highlights here. I've kind of circled where I want those highlights to go. Right here and right here. And then I've done my teeth. So the 2 middle ones are just little rectangles. I've got some gum up here and my 2 second teeth. And then we've got our vampire teeth. And these ones are going to be like, you've got a little curve. They might go a little higher up, maybe into the lip. And you're going to bring this line kind of like a little, you've almost got like a circle, like a semicircle shape here with the shape of the fangs. And then this one's going to curve down slightly inward and meet at a point. And then these ones are going to get to be like little, just kind of smaller, skinnier rectangles as we're going back into the mouth for perspective. And I sort of have some molars down here, but I don't even know if we're going to get to that. Okay, so that's the shape. If you want to pause and kind of draw this out, now would be a good time to do that. All right, I have left my lines kind of dark, but if you want to take a little eraser and just kind of lighten it up, I really recommend a kneaded eraser. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like a light covering over everything except my big highlights. All right, so I have marked out where I want my highlights to be. And remember when we were painting the potion, we talked a lot about like the power of the contrast between light and dark in making things appear shiny. And that applies here too. So we are really going to emphasize the lightness and the darkness around these shiny lips. I don't know about you, but I just think all vampires have the most luscious lips. All the vampires I've met in person, but just kidding. We've been watching In the Shadows. Into the Shadows, whatever. It's just really funny. Anyway, okay. So if you haven't watched that show, it's like a vampire spoof, and it's just very silly. It's like a documentary about like these vampires in New York, maybe New York, New Jersey. But they're just trying to be like big vampire people in the vampire community, but they're just super goofy. Okay. So I'm just painting a nice even wash, and I'm not going to worry too much about adding shading. I just want like a base color for me here. And then I think we're going to do some dry shading, even though like Wet and Wet is a great opportunity to kind of do some do some cool blendy blends. I feel like we haven't talked as much about dry shading in these tutorials, and you're going to have a little bit more control with dry shading. And I really want to make sure that we can really shape these smoochers here. Okay. So we've done that. Now I'm going to dig into the teeth ever so slightly. I am going to just lighten up a little bit around the teeth because they are kind of wanting to look too yucky, but now that you've kind of seen where my lines are. So I'm okay that these teeth are kind of bright and vibrant because it is a vampire, I mean, after all. So I've just taken my kneaded eraser. They come like this. They're just fun to play with. And oh my gosh, I just love it. So anyway, sensory moment. I just pulled off a little piece and I just went dab, 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 dab over my lines, and it just lightens it up just enough that makes me feel better about painting over it. Okay, so I'm gonna grab if you're painting real teeth, it's gonna be like more yellowy base, but because I really want these teeth to pop, I am gonna actually do a little bit of my my Payne's Gray to give these teeth some shadow. Okay, so I have mixed up like a very light Payne's Gray, very, very light. Okay, this is a very powerful color. So whatever, like a gray or a blue, kind of like a dark blue. I'm just adding a little bit of shadow here on the edges of the teeth. So let's see if we can zoom in even more. Okay, and then I'm taking a nice clean brush. Make sure your water's clean. And I'm just gently kind of fading that with a dry, lightly damp brush. I want these ones at the front to really pop. We're making sure we're tapping our paintbrush on our paper towel first, so when we come over to our painting, we're not bringing a ton of paint and color. This is really, really subtle. You can also do it kind of along the top line of the teeth. Think about where your shadows are coming from. So let's imagine the light's kind of like right here, coming from right here. So I've painted the left side of the teeth, and then we'll get kind of in the crannies on the other side too as it's receding backward into the gums. Okay. And just that little bit, if you want to make it even more dramatic, you can go into the crannies between the teeth. And I really dried my brush out, and I'm just going to kind of feather that out. And it's just going to get kind of darker as we move back. Our lips should be dry, and our teeth should actually also be dry. So I'm going to take my Payne's Gray, and I'm going to do a very light wash here. Not as light as the teeth, but just a light wash around the teeth and filling in the background of the teeth. And I just want a little bit of definition, like where my mouth is. And I don't want to make it too dark right now because I just want to kind of like block out that shape. And I really like to, when I'm painting, so if you ever do any of my watercolor kits, I talk a lot about like how I work in layers. So the first layer is all about kind of blocking in that base of color. This is where I do a lot of my wet and wet, and where I do a lot of, I kind of want to make like a little gap tooth. So let's just do that. An homage to the gap tooth. And so I start with like a very light layer, and this just helps me kind of block out the colors and the shapes that I'm wanting. And I also will do a lot of wet and wet there to give it just a really ephemeral kind of undertone. So maybe I'll show you a little bit of that too with this. So we're working wet, just filling in this space and working around my little teethies. And I like it, I like it, I like it. And as I was talking about a little bit of that wet and wet action here, I might Just add a little purple kind of up here just to give our mouth just some interest and variety. Okay, really make those teethers pop. And so in my first layer, this is what it's all about. It's all about dropping that color in and getting a sense of like the composition, because it's really hard when you're just looking at like a big blank page. That can feel very intimidating and scary and overwhelming, honestly, right? So, okay. And here we have our little mouth. And what we're going to do in our next layer is we're going to add in a lot of the shading and blending and giving it like a lot of, you know, I kind of like how this is like bleeding around the edge. I think that's like very vampire-y. So I'm going back in with the tip of my brush. I'm just adding more purple in here. Okay, I like it, I like it. Really getting the outline of the teeth here. If we were going to add more detail to the teeth, I would say we would wait on this step because we wouldn't want this dark purple to really like interfere with the lighter color of the teeth. But I think we're pretty much done. So I like that. I think that's really cool. Woo! A little too much coffee. I think my hand is shaking. Too bad we're not painting trees. Oh yeah, that's really fun. Okay, yumzilla. Okay, now since we've been working on this underside, let's go ahead and do like a little bit of a gum situation. So the gums are going to be a little bit warmer. So I'm using my permanent red, just a hint of my permanent rose here. But I want it to be pretty light. It's going to be lighter than our lips. The lips are like the main event, okay? And the teethers. And I'm just adding in like a little gum situation up here. I mean, I don't know what color gum vampires have. You may be surprised by that news since I talked about all the lips of the vampires that I know. I don't know, maybe it's purple, maybe it's orange, who knows. But for this one, we're going to make it kind of close to humanity, whatever. Okay, so I've got my gums in. Now let's go ahead and talk about how we're going to do this blending and shading on the lips. I'm going to get like a little blank piece of paper so I can show you. Okay, so when we're shading, we're going to start with a very dark color. And you're just going to make, so we're basically, let's back up a little bit. I'm just tickling the top of my paint dot here. I'm going to make a really saturated color, okay? And you're probably going to want to tap it there. And let's say this is the shape of our lip, okay? So we're going to go here. Once we make that line, we're cleaning our brush very quickly. We're wiping our brush dry. And then we are tickling the edge of that line to give it a nice, soft blend. Okay, you may want a smaller brush with this one as we're working around the shadows, okay? And you can keep doing that. You can keep cleaning your brush and just tickling it. You can push up against that color if you want it to go back and recede a little bit closer to the edge line. The damper brush, that'll give us like kind of a lip liner vibe. Or you can add more color in if you want it to be like a little bit darker. Okay, and just kind of tickle that out with your brush. Clean, dry. And the reason why we're not going like, okay, so here I've done my line, right? Like let's say I'm wanting to fade this one out. The reason why I'm not going into the middle of the brush stroke is this with a damp brush, is that's just going to make it go everywhere and kind of fill in to that edge of where my brush and the water has been introduced. But if I instead go with the tip of my brush, okay, so I'm kind of leaning it at like a 45-degree angle, and I'm bringing my damp brush, damp's important because lightly damp, it's going to help make that line really gentle. And because it's not super juicy either, the paint's not going to travel as quickly. Like it doesn't have as much, it's not all greased up, I guess. And so this is a really, really nice way to create these blends. I use this in petals. I would use this like on human portraits, like face portraits and stuff like that to get that soft blending of the cheeks, okay? And we can always, again, add more color in the edge. We could even add in like a second color here, which we might do in our lips, and let that be kind of an interesting thing. And then just come in, I've cleaned my brush off, and now I'm just touching that edge really gently and kind of blending that out. There we go. Okay, so that's a little bit about blending. Let's go ahead and go into our lipilers. I'm going to use my size 2 round brush. This is my Princeton Velvet Touch brush. And I'm going to continue with my permanent rose. I'm going to start with this upper lip. Okay, I'm just going to do like the one side. Okay, and I'm going to come in with my damp brush. Just be careful of your little highlight there. Okay. So I'm working my way around the highlight. And then I'm going to continue on with this blending technique all the way down the lip. And we'll come back from the bottom part of the lip to the top. And because this is a vampire and we're extra, I'm actually taking some of my alizarin gold because I feel like it's just really dramatic. And I'm just doing like a big kind of line of that along the edge. Okay, that blended a little bit more than I wanted, so I'm just softening that line. Okay, let's go ahead and come in here on the other side. Okay, really saturated line here. Pretty juicy. You want it to glide smoothly. It's like using a dried up lip liner. You don't want to like have it snagging. It helps if it's kind of got a little bit of like oil in it or something. So dry and clean my brush, clean and dry, and gently coax that shadow down the lip. Okay. And then let's add in that drama on the other side. Oh, yes. And I'm just going to do a little bit of blending here. Okay, so we've done the shadow from the top side of the lip. It's starting to look pretty good. Let's go ahead and do this top side of the lip as well. So we don't have to worry about the dip. We're going to just do this all in one fell swoop. Just watch out for the highlights. It may feel strange to leave a highlight. And as you blend this out, it's going to make that top line a little bit less dramatic. So that's why I like to go back in and add. Oops. And you could do the blending of these like top to bottom lip in the same pass of painting. But I just, because it's a smaller area, I want to give it the attention it deserves. Kids are out, so I'm like, I have to rush today. Maybe I will since I'm down here. And it's starting to dry out a little bit, so that's okay. I'm just going to re-wet my brush, damp, 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 and just kind of jiggle that line in between. Re-wetting, so when you have an area that's drying out, basically just re-wet the area with water that you're trying to fill in, and it's going to help smooth out any uneven drying lines. So it had started to dry in here, but I just covered it with water. If you want to lighten any of it, like I might want to lighten a little bit in this middle area here, you can take a wet brush or you can do some lifting. I might use my paper towel to pick up some of that pigment. Okay, I'm going to introduce some water that can push the pigment away. You have lots of options here. All right, let's do this part of the lip. So once again, I'm going to just go all in with my big red line. Oh yes, drama. Going in with my damp, lightly damp brush. It's clean. Coming in with a nice, pretty dry brush, but with a lot of pigment on it of my alizarin gold. Another really fun color would be to use Dragon's Blood by Mayberry Blue. That would be like real deep and woo, powerful. Okay. And I'm going to let this dry. I'm really tempted to like go in here. I just want to give a little more shadow to that middle part right here. Okay. I'm tempted to go in here, but it's not dry yet. So we're just going to give it, it looks like a cityscape, doesn't it? Silly. So we're going to let that dry. And what I might do is now I'm going to go back into my mouth and just add a little bit more darkness and definition. Oh, no, it's still wet right there. So let's just chill. Okay. Let's go ahead and blow dry this and I'll meet you back in a sec. All right. So I'm grabbing some more of my alizarin crimson here. And we're going to do more of a dry brush. So I've got a really dry brush here. I think I need a little bit more water. It does need to glide, but you know, make sure you tap it on your paper towel. Okay. And I might just do half. Since we're working dry, it's not as big of a deal. And I'm really drying my brush on my paper towel here. Okay. And I'm just going to gently shimmy that line. So before it was a little bit of a wetter shimmy, but this is going to help by keeping it dry. It's going to help keep that really controlled. Okay, if you feel like your brush is getting too much paint on it, just give it a little rinse and start over. I want a little bit more color here. So I'm going to go in to the bottom. Okay. And I'm going to just kind of paint along this highlight here. Okay. And nice, soft. Blending, really strong effect. Okay, so this is still in my blending and shading layer, like when I was talking about how my first layer is like the wet and wet. This is still part of my second layer, the second stage, if you will, where we do the shadow and shading. Oh gosh, I'm getting into it. You can tell I'm like, whoa, brain fart. Okay. And then to emphasize this highlight, I'm going to just kind of give it a little outline to really emphasize this highlight. And then I'm going to take my brush, my dry brush, and just gently blend. Okay, nice. All right, let's go ahead and do that with the top. Again, I'm using my alizarin crimson. I'm going to just do it on the bottom, I think, because I feel like the top is already pretty good. I almost want this to be a little bit darker, so I'm adding in a little bit of purple. Whoa, too much purple. If you saw my palette, you'd be like, yeah, that's too much. Just to give it some drama. I feel like this is giving like just a little goth girl vibes, you know? That's what we want here. Goth girl vibes. I don't know, I always thought the goth girl look was like very cool, and I feel like it would be like Belinda trying to do the goth thing, but who knows? Maybe one day I'll try it out. She says that she giggles. All right. Okay. And now we have very vibrant lips, but I just feel like we need to emphasize the darkness inside souls. Oh my God, just kidding. Emphasize the darkness inside of the mouth so that it really brings those teeth into the forefront. Okie dokie. So I'm gonna go back in. I have like mixed up a very dark Perylene, nope, very dark Payne's Gray with my Da Vinci Violet. I'm just going in here and doing a nice outline of my shape. We did some like cool blending in the first part, but I'm okay that we're covering that up. Especially like on the side teeth, you know. Maybe we'll leave a little bit of that dimension in the middle section. And thanks everybody who's been tuning in. Like it means so much to me that y'all have taken time out of your day. I know these are getting kind of longer. Initially, I really wanted to keep them around 10 minutes, but these are just like good little chunks of knowledge. So I hope you can, you know, take what you need and leave what you don't. And I hope it hasn't been too overwhelming to have the longer videos. So here I'm just going to go along the top, I think, a little bit. I know we've talked about not outlining, but I'm using pretty juicy paint right now, and I know that it's like kind of damp here in Washington, so this isn't going to dry too much. If you are in a more dry climate, you may want to. So now I've introduced a little bit more water as I'm kind of coming down and bringing this layer down. I'm going to introduce a little bit more water to my paint puddle mixture. This is going to give a little bit of that shape and dimension that we were playing with at the beginning. And then I'm going to do just a line at the bottom. Yeah, who cares about those bottom molars? And then I'm actually just going to add just water to this middle part. And then we'll get like a nice kind of, I think you can sort of see in the mouth. Shorta, shorta, shorta. I love it. I love it so much. Okay. So now that we've done that, if you wanted to add a little bit more detail to the teeth, and we'll add the final touch, but I'm going to let this dry. And then we'll come back for like the third layer. I'm doing air quotes. You can't see them, but we'll come back for the third layer, which is my detail layer. So we've done our wash layer, like getting rid of the white, our shadow and shading and depth layer. That was when we did all that blending. And then we're going to come back in for the detail layer. Hang on. So we are back in action for our detail layer. I am grabbing a little bit of light Payne's Gray to just add a little bit more to these teeth. Adding in just a little bit more shadow to really bring these ones up front to pop. A little bit here. Almost making like, yeah, like a little shape that's kind of like that at the bottom to give some nice shadow. Maybe like a little bit at the top where the gums are if you're feeling extra wild. Okay, and then let's just give it a nice little tickle. Clean your brush. Give it a nice little tickle and blend out. This is really light, okay? I feel like, ah, shoot. Just dab it with a paper towel. Oops, I might be a little bit too late on this side. It's okay. We're not really focusing on that. I'm okay with that. Okay, so now we can add some little lines to the lips. Okay, so this can be like even a thinner brush. I'm going to use my size 2 because I don't want to waste time on taking my small brushes. And just do some of those little like lippy lines. They're going to be just little C kind of curved lines that give us the shape of the lip. Kind of like this. Don't like, you know, belabor it too much. Just a little something, okay? All right, I feel good about that. And now for the piece de resistance, you're gonna wanna mix up like a nice juicy paint puddle, okay, of your darkest red. So I'm doing some red and I'm adding in just a touch of my Perylene green, just a little bit to like make it a little bit earthier. I've got my alizarin crimson. Might add a touch of violet just to give it dark, deep, juicy red blood color. Okay. Yes. And what we're going to do is clean your brush off. Okay. And we're going to make, oh, golly, there's a big drip there. Should be okay. We're going to paint the tooth. We'll just do one side at a time. And then what I want you to do is just paint the white of the tooth. And then I want you to take your white, your clean brush and draw a line down. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add some of that red that you just mixed up. A lot of it. Okay. You know how we talk about it not like spilling or bubbling over? Like you want this to be like a Jello plate that's like, okay. And then we're going to tip our thing. And you're going to take your paintbrush fully loaded with some water or some of that paint. And you're just going to keep adding dots to it till you get a little drip, drip, drip. And you're going to let gravity do its thing. Okay, you can see it's moving its way down. And I'm just kind of tapping it to coax it downwards. I'm okay if this like runs off my page. I may add a little bit more red here at the base of the tooth. Okay, and we want a little bit coming up here. Just adding some water, make it look really yummy in there. All right, let's do the same thing to the other tooth. So start with water. It can be, whoop, just slinging water everywhere. It can be a little juicy. A little too juicy there. Attack my brush, kind of mark my water here. And I'm going to add more water. You can just even add a drop because the water is going to stay wherever you've made your spot. Okay. Once again, I'm grabbing a lot of that water mixture. I'm adding some, ooh, it's really jiggly wiggly. Okay, and then, yes. And you can see, I'll show you in a second. See how a lot of the pigment actually dripped right out of the tooth? That's because we've got a lot of pigment in there. Okay, maybe you want to add like another little trail here. Maybe a little, I don't know. Maybe it's like a drop. I don't know. You do you. Okay. I feel like maybe this one is like bigger. I don't know. It's a messy one. All right. Another cool effect you can do is add some water into that line, and it will, maybe when it's a little bit closer to drying, it's going to push the pigment out to the edge. So it's going to kind of outline, create like an outline around your blood. I'm going to let this one air dry because I don't really want to mess it up. And I just want to see how it dries. So let's go ahead and pause it and let it air dry, and we'll, if you use a blow dryer, it's going to wiggle this paint around. So let's be patient. Ah! All right. So I really like this. I don't think I'm going to mess with it too much. If you wanted to like add a little bit more definition to the teeth to kind of give it a highlight or something, you could add some darker pigment next to the teeth and just kind of blend it together with our little soft blending tools. And this is going to really make it look like, you know, that blood is ensconcing the tooth. And you may want to like use a little white pen if you have one. That's gonna, you could do like a little shiny dot on there. I think I'm just gonna leave it. You could add more blood, you know, maybe it's dripping from the lip, who knows? But I think this is pretty cute and scary. So I'm gonna leave it there. Anyway, I cannot wait to see you for tomorrow's final painting. We're going to be doing a spooky forest. And I hope to do a live, larger version of it with you all, but I'm going to do a little mini version too on here. So you can get the full month if you don't want to watch the full thing. Happy painting. See you tomorrow. Bye.